Back again with another YouTube video. It's your boy Ryan G. Today we're gonna react to 10 unscripted WWE moments that made the McMahons furious. Let's get right into the video.
Sorry for breaking any Mark's hearts out there, but professional wrestling is scripted entertainment. And WWE, more so than any other promotion, does its best to map everything out in advance. Yet occasionally a wrestler will go off their own instinct and do something that isn't scripted because they believe it fits their match, angle, or promo. This brave stance can be applauded and even rewarded, but historically there have been instances of improvisation that have left members of the McMahon family ready to dish out punishment rather than praise. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 unscripted WWE moments that made the McMahons furious. Join us! Number 10. Unleashing on the Animal. WWE's switch to a TV PG format in 2008 was decidedly unpopular with a section of fans who had grown accustomed to seeing bloody violence, scantily clad women, and rude language on WWE television. Filthy degenerate perverts, the lot of them. It seems as though Batista also longed for the days of crimson masks, as he opted to go against the script and get colored during his World Heavyweight Championship cage match with Chris Jericho on the November 3rd, 2008 episode of Monday Night Raw. Big Dave knew there would be
Is this match really good? Y'all let me know.
consequences for going against company policy, but he had no idea that an apoplectic Vince McMahon would fine him $100,000 for his indiscretion after a backstage interrogation. Not only that, but Jericho, match producer Dean Malenko, and referee Mike Chioda were also fined $5,000 apiece. That really didn't sit well with Batista, who strongly believed that the blood was warranted for the situation, and he ended up chipping in another 15 G's to cover the others. The Animal admitted the incident was the start of him losing his love for WWE, while McMahon clearly felt that he needed
So this is what led him to losing love for the company? Wow.
to set a precedent with such a harsh sanction. Number 9. A flair for the obvious.
We have an ad already? Okay.
Of course, Batista wasn't the first person to go into business for himself and bleed, despite WWE having a no-blood policy. He may have been the first to deliberately juice during the so-called PG era, but his Evolution running buddy Ric Flair had done the exact same thing some 16 years earlier. Flair had agreed with WrestleMania 8 opponent Randy Savage that he would bleed during their world title match, and thought they had pulled it off when they came backstage and were given a stern telling off for what McMahon believed to be accidental blood loss. However, once the boss had reviewed the footage, the Nature Boy and the Macho Man had nowhere to hide, because it was obvious that not-so-slick Rick had cut his own forehead as the cameras had caught him in the act. Presented with the evidence, Flair and Savage had no choice but to take the $5,000 fine. What makes this situation more interesting is that Bret Hart had actually done the same thing during his Intercontinental title bout with Roddy Piper earlier in the night. However, he had been so sly with the
So if you get a blood cut, you have to pay a fine? Is that what he's saying? Or you weren't allowed to bleed, or?
excellence of execution that Vince was convinced that his blood came the hard way. Number 8. Crime time pays. You would think going off script on a non-televised house show might give you a bit of leeway, but you only have to look at what happened to Crime Time in 2007 to realise that that wasn't always the case. Shad and JTG were working on the road with World Tag Team Champions Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, and relations were reportedly not great between the two teams. Accounts vary as to the why and the how.
Oh, they had backstage heat or something. I never heard about this, so I'm guessing they had backstage heat and they fought and broke character, maybe? I'm guessing that's what I'm seeing.
But the finish of their match at a September 1st live event in Indiana was an unplanned count-out loss for the challengers. Feeling double-crossed by their opponents and the referee, Crime Time decided to get their heat back afterwards by hitting the official with their finisher and then auctioning off his belt to the highest-paying audience member. In keeping with their character, maybe, but many, including road agent Barry Windham and locker room leader,
He did a wrestling move on a official, on a referee. Well, that kind of makes sense since it's a live event. I mean, usually you see that at like pay-per-views, live events. Sometimes certain wrestlers have bumps.
leader John Cena felt it was unprofessional behavior and reprimanded the duo backstage. When Vince McMahon got wind of what went down at a Raw taping 2 days later, he was livid and let Crime Time go over it. Well, if you're gonna do the crime, be prepared to do the... forget it. Number 7, Titus O'Neil fools around, finds out. Titus O'Neil may not have been the best professional wrestler in the world, although he was responsible for the single greatest moment in the history of the business, but he was a serviceable member of WWE's mid-card, particularly when tagging with primetime players partner Darren Young. He's also proven himself to be something of an exemplary human being, doing much charity and community work of his own volition, as well as on behalf of his employer. Yet, there is a dark side to the Warrior Award recipients, a dark side that saw him get suspended for 60 days for the crime of playful...
Wellness, he had a wellness policy or something he did. Oh, it was because of Vince, when he had, I think, hit him or something. Because I think Vince tapped him and he didn't want to be touched. Something happened. It was something that occurred. It was someone's retirement or someone's something. And everyone was walking out back into the backstage, and Titus and Vince had gotten into it.
Grabbing Vince McMahon by the wrist. After Daniel Bryan's retirement announcement on the February 8th, 2016 episode of Monday Night Raw, the chairman was heading backstage when Titus grabbed his boss and said, "Ladies first," playfully indicating that Vince should let his daughter Stephanie walk ahead of him. O'Neil did so believing he had a good relationship with McMahon and it wouldn't be a problem, but the boss was seething and slapped Titus with the suspension, which was initially for 90 days, later reduced to 60, ensuring the star missed WrestleMania and the payday that comes with it. Number 6, Bad Maddox. The career of WWE star Brad Maddox both began and ended in controversy, and continued being controversial after he had left the company due to the leaked explicit material featuring him and former girlfriend Paige. Maddox, while acting as a seemingly innocuous WWE referee, was thrust into the spotlight when he...
Yeah, his storyline with CM Punk helping him beat Ryback at Hell in a Cell. Yeah, I remember that. That was like 2012.
He helped CM Punk retain the WWE title against Ryback in the main event of Hell in a Cell 2012. Just over 3 years later, after a run as general manager of Raw, Brad's firing made headlines for just how peculiar it was. Maddox was waiting to receive another opportunity as a wrestler on the main roster and was working non-televised live events as well as dark matches at TV tapings when he made a career-ending mistake. Prior to wrestling R-Truth in a dark match on November 24th, 2015, Maddox cut a promo in which he referred to the fans in Indiana as cocky pricks. Rather ordinary heat-seeking heel work, you might think, but you are not Vince McMahon, and he had a very different opinion. McMahon was angered so much by this unscripted barb that he reportedly threw Maddox out of the building before firing him the next day. Number 5, oh Mickey, you're so fine. The long-term storyline between women's champion Trish Stratus and her unhinged #1 fan-turned-enemy Mickie James was one of the best that WWE's females have ever been given. After months of tension, twists and turns, it all came down to a title match at WrestleMania 22. James, wrestling in her first ever Mania match, was looking for that coveted WrestleMania moment when she would do something that caused Vince McMahon to blow a gasket backstage. Countering Stratus' faction by grabbing Trish's crotch, Mickie then did a V sign with her fingers while sticking her tongue through them, looking directly down the hard cam as she did so. James was on cloud 9 when she walked backstage after winning the women's title at the biggest show of the year in front of her family and friends, only to be brought right back down to earth when she made it to gorilla position. McMahon was there waiting and he was irate, tearing into a tearful Mickie for what he called a crass gesture that would have to be edited off every subsequent release of the show, which it was. Number 4, talk to the hand. During an era of WWE where everything was meticulously scripted out ahead of time and talent were expected to recite verbiage verbatim or else, you could at least count on Dusty Rhodes to say screw all that and do his own thing. Because the American Dream, one of the best talkers in the history of the business, didn't need to memorize a sheet of paper to get the job done. He simply needed to know what the angle was and he could figure out the rest as he went. It made his segments during his son's feud with the Authority rather refreshing, but not everyone was a fan. Least of all, Stephanie McMahon, who was left looking visibly angry when Dusty put his hand in front of her face while having a stare down with Triple H on the September 30th, 2013 episode of Monday Night Raw.
That's That's when, what, I think Big Show knocked him out? Nah. This can't be it, was it? Am I right or wrong? I might be wrong.
Most had to stand there and let the billion-dollar princess emasculate them. Rhodes wasn't going to let that happen and produced the off-the-cuff gesture to shut her attempts down, much to her surprise and annoyance. Steph reportedly continued to fume backstage, but it's not as if she or anyone else could do anything about it. He's Dusty Bloody Rhodes, for God's sake.
Shoot, she got upset about that? Wow.
Sakes, shut up. Number 3, a pain in the Cass. After splitting from tag partner Enzo Amore and turning heel, Big Cass was set.
I actually like this storyline, like the heel turn leading up to it. You know, him faking being attacked, mystery attacker, and all that.
For a big push on SmackDown. And after being put into a feud with the beloved Daniel Bryan, it felt like the 7-footer had every chance of becoming a player on the blue brand. However, during a segment on the May 1st, 2018 edition of SmackDown, Cass went off script and took things too far in a decision that would pretty much signal the beginning of the end of his WWE career. Cass had been scripted to beat up a little person dressed like the American Dragon and was supposed to hit him with a single move. Unfortunately, though, he didn't stop at one and put a prolonged pounding on the mini Bryan. According to Cass, to call Vince McMahon unhappy over the whole thing would have been the understatement of the century, as WWE CEO reportedly laid into the star with both barrels backstage. Cass himself has spoken about how he felt he was doing the right thing at the time, but later came to realize he had made a stupid decision and chalked it up to a learning experience.
I guess it's because he overly did it, I guess. I don't know.
That he grew from. Number 2, a pain with the glass. You can mock Shane McMahon for that stupid little dance he does during his entrance. You can mock him for being presented as a super tough street fighter from the mean streets of Greenwich, Connecticut. And you can definitely mock him for tearing his quads seconds into his impromptu WrestleMania match with The Miz. And you should do all 3, really. But you really have to give the man credit when it comes to getting the crap kicked out of him. Shane took one of his best ever beatings at the 2001 King of the Ring when he met Kurt Angle in a grisly street fight that became notorious for being one of the very few WWE matches to utilize glass, as Angle repeatedly threw and suplexed McMahon through the pay-per-view set. According to Man in the Middle,
and he definitely got injured. I think he broke plenty of bones. I don't remember.
Yoda, Vince, who was communicating with the referee via an earpiece from Gorilla, was the angriest he had ever been due to Kurt's continued attempts to put Shane through the glass. It was only supposed to be one go through, but due to a mix-up ordering the glass, the
Yeah, because I think when he tried to break him through it the first time, it didn't break through or something like that, because I did watch this match before.
Had to call an audible. Vince became so enraged that he considered stopping the match while it was still in progress, but he didn't, and both men received a locker room standing ovation before heading to the local medical facility. Number 1, Ric Flair is a bleeding idiot. Ric Flair is generally considered one of the best and most charismatic mic men in professional wrestling history. But he is not infallible, and on the October 4th, 2004 episode of Raw, Nate cut a promo that not only went down like a lead balloon backstage, but changed the promotion's writing process when it came to promo approval and scripting things ahead of time. Flair was hyping his upcoming Taboo Tuesday match with Randy Orton, referring to the Legend Killer as a virgin when it came to killing legends. He followed it up by saying, and I quote, "And do you know how many virgins I've made holler, scream, and bleed all night long?" Oh, Rick. Oh, no. According to Batista, when Evolution got backstage, the dirtiest player in the game was confused by Vince McMahon's enraged reaction to the bleeding virgins line, since he didn't think it was that big a deal. But it was a big.
Alright, that was 10 unscripted WWE moments that made the McMahons furious. Tell me what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. I got more videos coming. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, Uriah out.